Thank you for coming. We just like to warm welcome Jo Nagasaka. Some of you might be already familiar when we are setting up the exhibition during that week. There's a bit of a student, quite a few students start involving in the setting up. But those who haven't seen him before, he's responsible that thatched roof in the front members room. And throughout this whole period, we see lots of people having lunch, do some laptop office works and so forth, and very, very popular place actually provided somehow. So I'm not really good at giving some proper introduction, but I think I try my best to kind of personalize a little bit. But I think Jo Nagasaka is one of the pioneers of those fit in between some sort of ambiguity of architectural practice, small scale to larger scale like urban landscape and so forth. And I think it's always quite intrigued by his approach. And so this exhibition's distillation is actually exactly fitting in that kind of work. We are often inspired by how maybe some practice in Tokyo or Japan, which use some sort of economy of practice, how to utilize something already familiar or some sort of making things improve by subtraction. So in a way, when we see their office setup, it's also reflecting kind of multi-scale approach. Also lots of young practice that grown out from his practice because he's engaging people to involve from right in the beginning to the end of the project throughout. But I think something quite intriguing about his work is always pay attention to one-to-one scale, no matter what larger scale, from furniture making, housing, or independent coffee shop, and the interior furniture, for example, in Metropolitan Tokyo Museum. And the Musashino University have a new facility building for the extension. And currently is start working for the project in Ireland, where extension of old building as a hotel somehow. So we may have this more regular visit, probably not every month, but maybe every couple of months he might have a pop into AA. So it's really good for us as well. Yeah. So I think there's something about this I have to read. Yeah. So there's a five concept. I think Joe might explain more clearly, but first one is subtraction, how to remove things or how to actually improve things by minimizing things to make something unfamiliar. Another one is misuse, how to look at certain existing materials, but at the same time try to reinvent the use of it, or choosing wrong tools to achieve something quite intriguing out of it as well. Knowledge renewal from the form of designing itself, reinventing some new aesthetic or certain set of language. And focus on unseen, it's also to see something behind actual phenomena to communicate through the design work itself. Then today, I think he's going to talk about half architecture, which I personally don't know what does it mean, but probably become more clear itself. Yeah. So I think I don't know how to emphasize this one-to-one attitude, but I think during we are constructing, or maybe just before the exhibition, I tell you this: he just arrived to the Heathrow Airport and received the email 2 hours before he's departing from Tokyo. And he warned us that there's lots of materials he's traveling with. So in a way, there's bent pipes and the scaffolding decks, which actually he bought on the way to the airport from DIY home center. And arrive a massive object and come along. And arrives, it's actually quite an event because he arrived at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I think I thought, now I get it. That's what he mean by one-to-one and hands-on approach somehow. So this time also he came through Paris, deliver certain interior project work, and he said 100 kilos he carry somehow. Anyway, So on the way to Ireland and come back type of thing. So I think that might illustrate his kind of form of practice, although he's really experienced and respected architects, but at the same time, he had a kind of spirit of, putting hands on, which probably some of you work with him, you may identify the way how work environment can be actually turned into some sort of mobile workshop itself as well. So I think this is just a longer introduction, but yeah, so I would like to say warm welcome to Jo Nagasaka. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for great introduction. And thank you for inviting. I'm Jo Nagasaka from Tokyo. Today, I want to talk about HAPPA architecture. We believe that architecture should adapt to its environment and the activities of community. By doing this, each place can regain its original spirit. It's not about facing new idea onto a place. Instead, it's about drawing power from what already exists and creating new value from it. This is the concept we call HAPPA architecture. My approach to architecture might have started with a mix of administration and discomfort toward the works of Kazuyo Sejima and Jun Aoki, which I saw when I graduated in 1998. At that time, some of my classmates were designing those buildings. Was I jealous of those elite architects, or was I seeing something they couldn't? I don't really know, but I do know that architecture at that time had a profound impact on the way I think today. Since I didn't have many architecture projects back then, I spent a lot of time designing furniture. Furniture design was a different world from architecture. But just as OMA was revolutionizing architecture, drug design was changing the world of furniture. Unlike the architecture industry, that design world was open to open to newcomers. Even someone unknown like me was welcome. This gave me chance to explore unseen knowledge and develop my ideas. One of my first major furniture works was flat table. The first I used epoxy resin was in Sayama Flat, where I applied it to the floor. Later, at Nadif, I experimented with mixing color into the epoxy. What happened was unexpected. When I mixed resin, deeper area became darker, while shallow areas turned transparent. And suddenly, cat footprints appeared in the material. This was because I had taken an old wooden table with an uneven surface from Sayama Flat and pour pink epoxy over it. It was an accidental discovery, but the result was beautiful. By pouring colored epoxy into uneven surfaces, I found that it smoothed out the surface while keeping an unique texture. That's how the flat table concept was born. The idea spread quickly, and in 2011, I exhibited it for the first time in Milan. The following year, I introduced Uzukuri with Establish and Sons. Through this experience, I became fascinated with Milan, a design scene which was open to young designers. Since then, I've continued to exhibit my work in Milan every year, constantly engaging in a renewal of knowledge. One of my inspirations came from Tsuganuri, a traditional Japanese lacquer technique. Before the lacquer dries, small seeds are sprinkled on the surface to create texture. The layer of the black and red lacquer are applied, and after drying, surface is sanded to reveal the pattern. ちょっとこれ間違えてます。これの説明でした今。I don't know residential screen, sorry about that. I adapted this technique using uzukuri, another traditional method, to create a technique I call coloring. Instead of lacquer, I used these 3 layers of paint and then sanded the surface to reveal the color underneath. A few years later, Artec asked me to apply the coloring technique to Stool 60. My work wasn't limited to furniture in Milan. I also worked on spatial design project. In 2017, I designed the exhibition space for Vitra. To make the space interactive, I let designers move the display palettes themselves. It wasn't just about displaying furniture. It was about letting people experience the space in a new way. At the Venice Biennale, we explored the idea of ordinary Japanese houses. Each house has its own story, which is reflected in its architecture. So I displayed fragments of these houses in chronological order, showing how family histories unfold through architecture. In Japan, these materials would usually be thrown away, but in Venice, they were celebrated as architectural narratives. During this project, we also experimented with ways to connect reclaimed wood with scaffolding pipes. We developed a method of cutting reclaimed wood into curved shape by moving a circulator saw from side to side. This technique became known as senban. That same year, Milan Design Week was held in the summer, at that time as the Biennale. So after Biennale, I went to Milan and presented new senban works. I also experimented with repurposed materials like waste woods. Ribbon stone cut with diamond cutter. Recycled bricks, it was all about fitting new ways to use old materials. This shelf on the left is from my office. It's a mix of things, art, stuff from a hardware store, and even some trash. The trash is actually things I picked up from the sea. I love their texture and color, so I collect them. Recently, we used them to make lighting for restaurants we are working on in Teshima. I've found that if I hold on to things that catch my attention for a while, their purpose eventually reveals itself. We designed the first Aesop store in Japan. When I visited Aesop store in Melbourne, I noticed how old wood matched beauty with Aesop bottles. So I thought, why buy reclaimed wood from the market when we can use wood from the demolished house in Japan? I started visiting demolition site, collecting discard materials, and bring them back to my office. For the design, I decided to use reclaimed wood placed vertically, new plywood placed horizontally. It was a simple combination, but it created a strong contrast between old and new. Sometimes the future is not just created by adding something, but also by taking something away. In 2007, I moved my office to a former transport warehouse. I shared the space with Aoyama, an art gallery owner, and Shuhei Nakamura, who later collaborated with me on Flat Table. At first, I planned to paint the wall white, but Aoyama asked me, why paint them? The question made me rethink everything. Shortly after moving in, I started working on Sayama Flat. Looking back, I realized if things had happened in a different order, Sayama Flat might never have existed. This image is like a concept drawing made after the project was finished. It shows that we can rebuild by taking things away. Let me explain in English what I'm doing. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, "In his blue garden, men and girls came and went like months among the whispering and the champagne and the stars. Some words were erased here and there. Then by adding one word, it became the sentence. Men and girls came and went like a butterfly among the stars." It is like taking away a green wall and doing DIY work. "60 years later, the space looks like this. Through this project, we began to think about how architecture can be close to people. We call this kind of building self-driving architecture. This is a proposal for an art school building that was not built. What we thought about here gave us idea for our later work. We plan to use the yellow area in the section drawing for many purposes, like this. This idea came from Paris. Even a building that is hard to change by design can reveal why the streets of Paris are so lively. で、これちょっと説明したいんですけど。まあ、この穴があるだけで、この、なんて言うんでしょう。朝、マルシェが突然できて、昼終わると、それが一気に片付いて、でその後車がその上を走るみたいなこう街の変化がこの一つの穴一つでこのマルシェがあっという間に変化するっていうことができていて。
I found it really fascinating. So there's a hole on the street, but it's not just a hole. There's a market in the morning, and then once the market is finished, in the afternoon, they just take the market down and the cars will be running over the road. So it's a part of the changing of the town. So it's not just a hole, it has a huge purpose.
The result of these studies can be seen in the art school project at Musashi no Art University. The building is made with a prefab structure. On the first floor, there is a workshop with a multi-purpose space next to it. In the space, sometimes exhibitions, making things, and lecture are held. The second floor is a studio where first year to fourth year students come together to design. The use of the space changes every day. For the reason, there are holes at regular intervals along the raceway where we insert metal pipes. These pipes are joined with panels to make walls. At the same time, smart lights let us control the power and lights freely as the wall changes. The furniture can also be moved with a hand lifter. Also, the walls are painted by the students themselves. When the walls are painted, the original sign is hidden, so the students can put a new sign using a stamp. As a result, rich activities and new works are made every day. Next is our project on Jeju Island, South Korea. This project is on the Jeju Island. We started with the plan for D&D department. But even before it was finished, new orders came one after another. We then worked on several renovations at the same time for the same client. At that time, I thought for a moment that an unified design might be needed. But I decided that having different designs could hide the boundaries of development and spread hope for the future and the neighbors. This is half architecture. This is a view of one of the pilot area of D&D department. It shows big boundary. This is a restaurant where local food is served. This is an artist in residence space where craftsmen and chefs stay while they hold workshop. This is a lifestyle shop that sends out local culture. The third floor has a hotel with a front desk and a shared area. This is another shared area. You can see inside some of the room. This is a view inside a room where every piece of furniture and every small item is a product for sale. Looking out from the room, you can see the next building. The second floor is a flight tag, and the first floor is rental bike shop. This is the second floor. The plants can be moved with the hand lifters. The bicycles are hung from the ceiling. The building next door connected gently. This is a cafe called Cream. It is under the Alario Museum. Across the street, there is a shop of Column, a fashion brand with an upcycling themes. They made furniture out of ocean waste. When I was university, Japan had a trend where buildings were painted white and the diagram was turned directly into architecture. Transparency was mostly about how things looked, and fixed glass was used everywhere, even in a house. I used it too, but something always felt off. On a nice day, I wanted to go outside. I wanted to open the window. Then COVID-19 happened, and that made me think even more deeply about this idea. The year COVID-19 started, we moved our office. Since we didn't have many projects, we built the office ourselves. At that time, traveling was difficult, so we started hosting regular gatherings like Bar Basso at the Milan Design Week, where friends could meet. Through this, we didn't just create a space, we started designing what happens inside the space as well. Around the same time, we had a client in Seoul who owned a cafe. Their building was under construction, so we suggested moving their cafe to our office temporarily. This turned out to be a great idea. The cafe got good promotion. Our office became more open and lively. We didn't plan every detail in advance. Instead, we designed the cafe little by little while running it. We used the corner of our kitchen and turned an old parking space into an open cafe. This sign that furniture, the sign, the furniture, even the menu, they were always changed. And even now, they are still evolving. Evolving. まあなんか途中でイベントを重ねたり変更したりしながら徐々にお客さんをこう巻き込んでいき
So we are constantly having some sort of events and very flexible, so events can change. And what we are trying to do is try to involve as many people as possible as a community.
つまり完成までのプロセスで人にもっとたくさん絡めさせることによって完成した時にもうすでにそこにお客さんがこう絡んでいるっていう状況を作るっていうことをしてます。
So we're just trying to get as many people as possible before this was complete, so that once it's done, everybody knows where we are, what we are about.
In Milan, designers often gather for dinner, events, and networking. We wanted to create something like that in Japan. So I worked with Akira Minagawa from Minaperfone, and together we designed Yatai, an outdoor dining table on the rooftop of Spiral. Every year during Tokyo Design Week, designers and creators come together here for dinner. And this project is an evolution of that idea. これ形は同じなんです。さっきのと。
So the shape is exactly the same as this.
And this project is recently I designed a cafe inside a Tokyo seaside park. The park was already a place where people naturally gathered. So I asked myself, how can we make it better without disrupting it? I decided to think of the entire park as a cafe. Instead of separating the two, I blend the park with the interior space. We added semi-outdoor seating and used FRP walls that let in soft light during the day and glow warmly at night. Now the cafe feels like a new natural part of the park. And every time I visit, it's full of people. Next, I wanted to talk about something else, places that already exist but aren't being used to their full potential. Public baths or sento began in Japan during the Edo period, about 400 years before. After World War II, the government built many of them, especially in cities like Tokyo, to improve public hygiene. But as more people started having baths at home, sento began disappearing. At the same time, super sento and hot springs stayed popular. That made me think, how can we make sento more attractive for young people today? We redesigned a sento by switching from wood-fired heating to gas and using the extra space for a sauna. Relocating the laundry area and adding a beer bar. Creating a new routine, bath, sauna, beer, home, happiness. So here what we got. This is inside the bath. By chance, the sauna booms arrived at the same time, and now this sento is so popular. You need a reservation to get in. There are about 80,000 shrines in Japan. That's more than the 55,000 convenience stores. But in recent years, many shrines have been shutting down. And in 20 years, the number could drop even more. Like Sento, shrines are built in good location. So the question is, how can we preserve them? Just I was thinking about this, a shrine reached out to us for advice. They wanted to use their small ring for new activities. Right now, we are working on a design for that. This shrine has a strong budget, but many others don't. Their buildings are beautiful, but they need new ideas. This is something we should all think about. Many temples are also struggling financially. One temple we worked with is in a good situation because its parent organization is strong. But even so, they are trying to become more self-sufficient. To do that, they are expanding their 宿坊わかります。店舗ロジングって説明できます。
So like accommodation in a temple.
They are using existing structures, the temple, bath house, gardens, and the farmland, and renovating unused building to create something new. I hope this talk helped you see the world is full of possibility, and with them, new perspective. Thank you.
We have a time for question. Come on. Yeah. Okay.
The shrine, there was a beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
There was just a minute ago you showed a slide with 3 different shrines, and the top one was on the sea.
海が
I
見えま
wondered
す
if
ね。
it's still there.
これまだありますか。どこにあるんですか。
これは、いや、これは福山に福山っていうところの一部に本当にこの新勝寺っていう寺の群があって、でもともとはこれは船を作ってる会社の常石造船っていうところが船で亡くなられる方がいるんで、そのお墓までっていうところでお墓を集めてきた場所なんですけど、非常にこう恵まれた土地にあるんですけど、そこをただ寺として利用するだけじゃなくて、その恵まれた土地を使って泊まれる。だから外国から来た時に禅をなんか学びたいっていう方々が、泊まりながらそこで修行するみたいな、そんな場所を今計画してる。
So it's in a place called Fukuyama. Fukuyama. And it's called Shinshoji, is the temple's name. And actually there's a group of temples there. And what happened was there's a company called Tsuneishi Shipping. It's actually a shipbuilding company. And so there are people who died in the sea, and the company actually built crematorium there. So graveyard basically for people who lost their lives in the sea. So, but the actual location is brilliant. So the temple started thinking about, we could do more about it. So we are not just a temple. So they decided to have some sort of accommodation so that people can come and stay and learn, say, Zen. People from foreign country can again, come and study Buddhism. So that's the plan.
I love the way you embrace the spirit of water and this whole thing about the bathing practices that you have. I'm a part-time carpenter, and I've been fascinated about making an ofuru. I hope I'm saying it right. I noticed that you use old wood, to reconstruct. Could one do that to make an ofuru? I think maybe the structure itself, being a porous and organic material, might not be able to sustain holding water. But could that be an idea? Maybe I'm asking a silly question. I know the practice of making ofuru is quite a closely guarded secret. It takes particular wood. The natural oils in the wood would help to seal the boards to hold water. Might that be a possible venture? Try and make one. Perhaps it might need to be re-oiled, I don't know, but what's your take on that?
別にその古いか新しいかは関係ないと思うんですよ。どちらかというとその水に強い木かどうかっていうことの方が大事で、多分ヒノキとかが代表的ですけど、ヒノキが古い分には別にそれで、使えないってことはないんじゃないかなっていうふうに思います。
So it doesn't actually matter if it's old or new. It really doesn't matter. It's all about the water resistance, how the material can hold the water. So hinoki is the popular wood.
Yes.
So actually old hinokis are really good for making ofuro bath.
Yes, because it's a particular type of wood, isn't it? The
cypress
type of wood, isn't it?
でちょっとついでなんでお話しすると、そのお風呂最近3軒ぐらい僕は相次いで風呂を設計してるんですけど、そのパブリックバスとか銭湯、温泉とか今やはりそのお酒を飲まない人たち多くなってて、結構また再びその若い人たちがそのコミュニケーションの場所としてお風呂を利用している。で今度その LA に風呂を持っていこう、銭湯を持っていこうっていう企画もちょっと考えていて、あっちは今度どちらかというともう十分いろんなものを贅沢した人たちが最後にやっぱりその健康とそういったものを求めるときに風呂がいいんじゃないかっていうことで考えていて、なんか結構その一時はそのなんかただの機能でしかなかったものがまた再びなんかそのコミュニティ作りだったりそういった健康との関わりだったりっていうのを動き出していて、ちょっと面白いなって思ってます。
So adding to that, on the same note, I've been working on 3 different bath projects, so be public bath or hot springs. I think it's a really great opportunity right now because young people, younger generations don't really drink. They don't really go out and chat to people over a glass of beer, for example. It's the sentos becoming a great place for communication for younger people. They just get together, have a bath, have a chat, bonding place. And now I'm working on a project to have sento in Los Angeles. But this is quite different. The reason is actually quite different because at the end of the day, all these people who tried everything, or luxury and all that, they decided, right, it's time to get healthy.
Come back to beer, basically.
Yep. So I thought, right, sento bath is a great idea, I thought. And so What I'm trying to say is that it's just not about function. So bath is not where you get cleaned. It's a place for communication. It's a part of the community, and also a place where you think about your own well-being. So that's a project I'm working on at the moment.
それこそアイルランドでやってるプロジェクトも風呂を作ってます。
And the project that you mentioned earlier, I'm again working on the bath as well for that.
Yeah.
いやもし if you invite I won't make bath in London. Yes, please. Yeah.
We have a bit more time for another question. Maybe after.
Okay. Is it on? Yeah? No, okay. Yeah. Thank you for your lecture. It was very interesting. I thought it was very funny when you said once you brought the material to Venice in the pavilion, people look at it as something valuable. So I was wondering, how is your work specifically with these reclaimed materials that you use in different ways perceived in Japan, actually?
日本ではどういうふうにこういう古い素材を使ったものっていうのを作るってことですどういうふうに日本では見られてるんですか？ベニスではすごく受けたし面白いと思われたみたいですけどどうでしょうか？
普通にまあイソップでも使っていますし、この間もその今日お見せしたイソップのストアは震災前でもうまだそんな環境に対して物事を考えてる時じゃなかったんですけど、それから十何年経って、この間吉祥寺に同じコンセプトで古い一軒の建物を壊した時にその材料を今度はもう車を使わずに手運びでこうまあ2キロぐらいを動かしてそれでその材料を使って店を作ったんですけど、まあそれも非常に受け入れられていて、まあなんて言うんでしょう、その材料が持っているすでに長いことそこに存在してたっていうこうぬくもりってやっぱりあるんですよね。でそのぬくもりをやはりきちっとまあだらしなく使うと居酒屋になっちゃうんで、まあ、そうじゃなくちゃんとデザインすると空間としては居心地のいい場所を読むなとは思ってます。
Actually, pretty well received in Japan as well. So even I showed you that image of Aesop shop that I designed. That was before that big earthquake, so we didn't really take that sort of earthquake-proof or the environment that much into account at that time. But it's been over a decade now, and we had this old building in Kichijoji in Tokyo. So it was demolished, and we wanted to use the material, but we didn't use a car. We actually carry everything by hand, like a couple of kilograms here and there. So we did that. But it's not just about recycling materials. But anyway, so we made a shop with these materials, and it was pretty good. But it's not just about materials, things. It's about the warmth that the old building carried, and I think we have to respect that and cherish that as well. Say izakaya, some Japanese bars use old materials, but it's not really a good example. It's kind of sloppy even. But if you really think about the history, the past, and again the warmth, I believe that we can create a very comfortable, warm, and good place.
なんかこれ吉祥寺のさっき今説明してたやつをこうやって壊れた一軒のものを手運びでみんな運ぶんです。そうすると何事かって町の人たちは見るんですけど、それから数ヶ月経った時にイソップのお店としてこう立ち上がるとバカなことやってた子たちはイソップになったのかって、まあ結構なんていうかそのオープン前からそのなんとなくそこに何か変なことが起こりそうだっていう予感をこう作っていく。さっきのカフェでも同じようなことなんですけど、昔までは全部用意してボンと出すことだったのが、今その プロセスをこう展開することによってそこの場所に対する期待感をこう作っていくっていうのは結構必要なことだし、あとやはりこれはなんでこういうことをやったかっていうと、イソップがやはり環境を配慮したお店作りっていうことを一度考えてみたいっていうことがあったので、我々なりにその問いに対して同じことを青山でやった時にはそういうことを考えてなかったが、十何年経っただけでこれだけそういうことを話す、同じものだけど全然違う意味になるっていうことを考える機会として作ったんですけど、なのでできるだけその二酸化炭素を出さないようにして作ったお店ですね、これは。
So that's the video of that Kichijoji. And so that's how we carried all these materials. And because we are doing this, people in the neighborhood started noticing us, what's going on, who are these crazy people carrying stuff out. It took about a couple of months actually. And then they realized that these materials became the Aesop shop. Surprise. And also they thought, oh yeah, all these city people, all right, they were doing this. And they were quite impressed. So we sort of built up this sort of expectation before the shop even opened or even built. So the people had this kind of, oh, what's going on? And also good expectation, not negative. We did, it was the same thing that we did for the cafe. So in the past, when a new shop opens, you don't really see the process of it, right? Open, there's a shop, but it's not like that. And I think it's quite important to show the process so that people are aware something new is happening, something's going on here, and these people are working. You see the faces of the people who are working to build this. And I think that is very important. And also why reclaimed materials. Obviously, when the shop in Aoyama opened up, it was before the earthquake, and people are not much aware of the environments. They weren't really thinking about it. But after 10 years, I wanted to also show that everybody, including us, evolved. And so this is, and also the company Aesop was very much conscious about the environment. They wanted to do something good for the environment. So taking into that account, I thought this is a very good opportunity, good way to show our commitment as well as their Aesop's commitment. So it's not just building a new shop. It's not the same thing. And also, it's very nice for the environment and a very low emission, obviously, because we carried everything by hand.
これはブルックリンでも作ったもので、京都で出た、一軒の建物の材料を、使って東京で加工してでパックしてブルックリンに運び、そこで、日本人の職人がまたそこに行って組み上げて空間を作る、10日間で空間作りをするっていうプロジェクトをしたんですけど、これも東京都だとただのゴミでしかないものが、アメリカに持っていくと「お京都」って言って、喜んでくれるっていうか、そういうちょっと移動するだけで価値が変わってくるっていうことは結構あるなっていうのは思ってます。
So this is from another project in Brooklyn. The building was built by all these materials from this demolished house in Kyoto. So we disassembled everything, and we did some process in Tokyo. We packed it, shipped to New York, and the engineers went over to Brooklyn, and they worked for 10 days to complete. So these materials are rubbish in Tokyo, but when you took them to the States, everybody's like, "Wow, Tokyo, amazing." So if you move something that's not valuable in one place, if you move them to somewhere else, it has a new value.
これが今度の4月にエクステンドして隣に また伸びるんですけど、それを今計画してまして、4月にまた日本の職人を連れて一緒に行って現地で10日間で組み上げるっていうプロジェクトをやろうとしてます。
So we are going to be working on an extension in April next to it, and so I'm going to go over there with 10. I'm going to go over there with Japanese engineers, and again we're going to work for 10 days to complete.
これをすいません、出稼ぎと呼んでます。
So dekasegi, it's like a working abroad.
And make foreign money to survive. なで今度それを LA でもまあやろうとしていて、そこにまあ銭湯を持っていければなということで動いてます。
So we are planning to do something similar in Los Angeles, and that's where we're going to have that center, the bath.
You want to ask some question? Yeah, okay.
Hi, I have a question about the dohyo in Tomimachi Shrine. So I think it's traditionally dohyo is quite common thing to have in a shrine, but probably not anymore. Many shrines demolishing the dohyo. But what's your intention to actually make the new one? And
壊しはしない。
so is this the so
Exist and
is this the
壊しはしない
existing one? No?
うん、それ残します。で、
So what's the new part of it then?
まあその土俵って1年に1回しか使わないんですね。で、なのでそのそれ以外の時にそこを使う用途がないので、それがもったいないっていうことで、そこを有効に利用できる何か家具なり何なりを作って、そのアクティビティを生んでもらえないかっていう。でまあやはり神社も新たなそのアクティビティをどう生み出すかっていうことがやっぱり非常に大事で、我々も今は本当に考え中なんですけど、その後ろに神社って大体竹が後ろに控えてたりして、その竹を利用して何かそこにアクティビティを生むためのデザインを作れないかってことを今考えている最中です。
So we're not going to demolish the sumo ring. But the problem with sumo ring is you only use it once a year. So the shrines, those shrines that have the sumo ring are thinking of just making more use of it. What can we use it for the rest of the year? It's a waste of space because you only use it once a year. So they asked us to create some sort of space to do activities. So maybe we could design some sort of furniture to use the space while they're not doing sumo. But not just the sumo ring, but shrines are constantly thinking of new activities to get more people. And we are actually thinking of what we can do, to be honest. Say, many shrines got bamboo woods on the ground. So we could do something with that bamboos. So I'm really currently thinking what we can do, what can we design with these bamboos, what can we do with these small rings.
One more question. Yeah. Two more. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. I believe most of the project you presented today were projects working on existing structures. And I'm curious how you also imply this concept of half architecture to newly built projects or projects without an existing structure.
既存のものを使ったものと今回紹介されましたけども、新しいものを作るという時にこのハーフアーキテクチャっていうコンセプトをどういうふうに生かしていけるというか。
人の話聞いてた
？Were you listening to me? ごめんなさい。
さっき説明したこれはどうだろう。 新築です。
So this is actually brand new.
で、何をしているかっていうと、ここでは、完成しないものを学生に与えて、自分たちで作っていくことを、作ることを計画しました。で、そのために作りやすいそのインターフェースって僕らが言ってるなんていうか、あらかじめ建築にちょっと仕掛けを施しておき、それを使ってやればそこまで手間をかけないで壁を作ったり、なんか状況を変えていける仕組みを作るっていう未完成を与える。すると、その後育てていくガイドを作るっていうことが、その新しいビルでやっていることですね。
So I think I should elaborate on that to explain this. So this is brand new, and what we did with this is we gave students something unfinished so that they can actually finish it at the end of the project. So it's like interface. That's something like make the process easier. Say, for example, you can build this wall without proper technique. There's like half done, so that students can actually tackle that project. So we gave the students something unfinished so that they can complete it. And so it's nurturing the new talents and also educational. So that's half architecture for brand new buildings.
Valentin?
Thank you. Hello? Thank you for the talk. It was actually very clear, I thought, and really lovely to see all the different type of scales that you operate in. I have one question about drawing and how do you apply drawing or design, particularly when you are relying on harvesting material and then kind of stock take and then trying to communicate the design to people who build it, particularly in the Aesop store when you showed the moving of the material. Did you apply it directly and design it while building, or was there a process of drawing and translating involved?
そうですね。ソップはまずはその材料を見つけることが何よりで、それも SNS とかいろいろ駆使するんですけど、でどこだっけ、見つかっソップどこにあったっけ、これか、見つけて、事務所が大体僕たちさっきの人を集めてパーティーやったり、なんか自分たちで展示やったりっていうのことが日常で今カフェになってたりするように、そういうなんていうかちょっと贅沢に使わない場所っていうのをいつも維持していて、なのでそこに一旦材料を全部わーっと運んで、でこの時は隣ギャラリーだったんで展示してない時にたまたまスペースが空いてたからそこまで使わせてもらって、でそこでこう全部材料を開いて、でまず眺めてどうこれを料理しようって考えるんですね。でそのうち出てくるだろうっていういつも楽観的な見通しを立てて計画をしていくんですけど、吉祥寺の方も同じような感じでした。一回全部現場に運んで、それからどうデザインするかっていうのはこうモックアップを作りながら考えていくっていうことをいつもしてます。だから1分の1でモックアップっていうのは結構今のさっきの竹の話とかも今多分担当者は竹を割って事務所でいろいろスタディをしていると思います。
So the ESOP shop, as you can see, the most important thing is finding material. So we use social network to find what we can find actually. So in this ESOP shop's case, we found the house, and in our office we're quite lucky, as you saw in my presentation. There's space for parties, space for gatherings, there's even a cafe. So there's always some sort of space that we can use as a storage. So when we found out about the house, right, let's just bring everything in. So we brought all these materials in. And there's a gallery next to us, and they weren't having any exhibitions, so they're closed. So they kindly let us use the space for, again, our storage space. So we looked at everything. Once everything was brought in, we looked at everything and thought, right, how can we cook with these? And then I'm always quite optimistic about things. There's always something we could come up with. We don't really get stuck. So the Kichijoji, the case was the same. So we went to the premises and then brought in the materials, and then we think about design. What can we do with all of these? And also, we make mock-up and we talk about the same size scale. That's partially why, because we collect materials first, so we can actually mock up in the same scale. So currently, I'm pretty sure back in Japan, my colleagues are working with these bamboos in the shrine. I'm sure they're cutting bamboo, looking at from this side and that side, and I'm sure they're having fun thinking of what they can do with these.
なんかさっきのプロセスを見せるって話とそのスタディっていうのがなんて言うんでしょう、ちょっとすると昔だったり言い訳考えが先に立ってないっていうことを言われてしまいそうなことなんですけど、今なんていうかやりながら考えるっていうことがそのまま外に同時にこう流していくことによってそこにこうお客さんの目が集まるので、クライアントは結構喜んでるんですよね。でそういうプロセスをこう見せながら一緒にこう盛り上がっていくっていうことがなんか公に許されている。で失敗するとちょっと喜ばれる。アイディアが思いつかないっていう時もどうしようって言ってる様が面白いっていうことを使いながらなんとかゴールさせるっていうそういう感じで面白いですけどね。
So I talked about showing the process. It's about my guys are doing the study of the bamboos right now, but studying is part of the process, and it is quite important to show that. A while ago, this really wasn't considered good practice. Now you have to think before you act. But these days, you come up with something as you go along. You do things as you go along. Isn't a bad thing. And also by showing the process to the outside, we get the audience. People are more aware of it, and the clients actually like it because they get attention even before anything actually opens. And also you can build up the excitement of it. There is something happening now, and there's going to be something else happening at the end of this. And I think it's quite wide that practice is widely accepted, I think. And also, even if we fail, actually people are happy about it. People like watching you fail. So that kind of creates some sort of excitement and entertainment, and I'm okay with that. I'm really stuck. I don't know what to do with it, but at least we are being entertaining. So I actually do enjoy the process myself as I go along.
ちょっと付け足しでお話をすると、最近日本はですけど工事現場が全部囲われてしまうんです。で、あれこそ本当は子どもたちに一番多分見せるべきものだと思うんですよね。すごく分かりやすい勉強だと思うんですけど、 全部囲われていて、だから僕らの事務所で何か作ってるとものすごい子どもたちが集まってくるんですよ。でそれを見てなんかどうやって物事ができてるのかってまあ少しでも知る機会になってんだと思うんですけど、もうちょっと多分工事現場考えた方がいいなっていうふうに思ってます。一番勉強できる面白いところじゃないかなって思うんですけど。
And to add to that, in Japan, all the building sites are covered, so you don't really see when a new building is being built. And I really, really believe that you should show that you should make the open, especially for children. They can learn a lot from it. They can learn how this building is being built, who's working, what they're doing, and all the process. And in our office, everything is open. So we get so many children coming in to have a look at what's going on. And so they can learn how things are made. And they find it really interesting, entertaining and fun. So I think whoever is up there in the building industry should really think about it, because it's a great educational opportunity and also involving the community as well.
No more? Yeah. I would like to say thank you to Kozue Echizen, the translator. She's an excellent translator. She's getting better and better, I think, from the beginning than last time as well. So I really congratulate as well. So thank you very much. I think last note, as he might be come back for Dekasegi. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not so sure how much we can afford to pay you, but it would be great. And I think the those upstairs wonderful Yatai, and I'm not so sure how Jo was so serious about it, but he tried to sell them. So, but so we're not going to put in the auction, yeah. But on the other hand, I think we had a bit of agreement that if nobody buy it, then we're going to rebuild in Fuku Park over this summer. So, one hand, maybe I'm hoping that it's become part of the Fuku Park. Or maybe you can ask him to design the bus or something.
それはもう本当にありがたいですし、なんかまあオランダの友達もただだったら欲しいって言ってもらってるんですけど、全然お金とかよりもできればもうちょっと多くの普通の街になんかこうインストールできたらいいなっていうのはちょっと思ってて、僕もちょっと体験してみたいんです夏。ちょっとフックパック遠くいいですよ。いや大丈夫です。そんなことがあればぜひ喜んでお願いしたいとは思ってるんですけど。はい。
So, but that's gonna be, if that's happened, it's gonna have a workshop. So we need lots of people to carry it. Maybe not from here, walking, but might be a great opportunity adding some new values and event as. So, yeah, thank you very much for Jo, and it's really lovely and transparency in terms of how he demonstrates, share every experiment. So not only architecture, but his attitude is kind of reflecting those kind of idea of openness and transparency, which actually quite lovely to share, I suppose. So thanks again. Yeah.